Hey, what is up everyone? Cryptic Psycho here, and today I want to do another one of these philosophy talks. There's actually a fucking bee in my room, of course there is. So today I'm going to kind of focus it on morality. What did I do last time? It has slipped from my mind. Aha! I remember what it was. I talked about the mind and the whole quality intentionality thing. There we go, I remember what it was. Anyway, so there's two types of moral theories, agent and act-centered theories. Now, hang on, let me just move my notes over here so I don't have to keep bloody looking away. There we go. So, right, now I've done that. Cool. So there's two types of moral theories, agent and act-centered. Now, agent-centered theories kind of sort of along the lines of Aristotle's virtue ethics, which I talked about in another video I did ages ago, which took me ages to make. They argue that moral weight should be given, so moral judgment should be given to an agent and their overall life rather than the actions of the agent. Whereas act-centered theories argue that moral weight should be given to the actions that an agent performs. Now, how they actually judge the actions varies. So there's two types of ways they do it. There's a huge debate around it between deontology, which argues that the goodness the goodness of an action is determined by the intentions of the agent, or an agent is the person performing it. Whereas consequentialism argues that the goodness of an act depends on the consequences of the act produced, such as the amount of happiness produced. That's utilitarianism. Kant is an example of deontology. Now, they both have their own problems. Now, consequentialism, the problem with consequentialism is that anyone can be said to have done a good thing despite their intentions. Now, this is the problem with this is made more obvious when you have an example, because it doesn't actually fit with our intuitions. So, someone could basically do a good thing by accident, trying to do a bad thing, and you would have to argue that their actions were right anyway, according to consequentialism, which obviously seems wrong. So an example is, someone could throw a knife at you trying to kill you, but by some bloody miracle, this could have good consequences, like opening your packet of wine gums. I don't know why I thought of wine gums, maybe because I have some right there, which I'm going to eat in a minute. And because the action of throwing the knife had good consequences, you would actually have to judge that action as being good, despite the agent trying to kill you. Assuming that they weren't justified in killing, which is a different thing. However, the problem with deontology is that it doesn't seem realistic not to take into account consequences at all. Like, we always take into account consequences. We actually do judge our actions, or we decide what actions we're going to perform generally based on their consequences. So you may go downstairs because you think that might be beneficial to you in the long run. You don't just do it for no bloody reason. So you do take into account consequences. Again, an example helps to illustrate this. So again, an example. So if someone's trying to injure you, but somehow saved your life by stopping you from walking in front of, I don't know, an aggressive cow named Daisy because they stabbed you in the leg with a spoon, it would seem strange to say that that action was still somehow wrong, which is what we'd have to do with something like Kant's theory. I mean, they saved your life. You would probably have to say that their action was right, or intuitively that's what you would do. Now, there has been tons of debate about whether or not we should take into account not taking into account, about whether or not we should, our moral theories should be consequentialist, or they should be based on deontology. And I think the problem and the reason it hasn't been resolved, apart from the fact that philosophers never resolve anything, they love dragging on debates for like 2,000 years. I think the problem is that both sides do have a point. Now, anyone who studies philosophy knows that a good moral theory will generally fit with our intuitions. There's some exceptions and there's some leeway with that. They don't have to completely fit, but generally it's a good idea if they do fit with our intuitions. And the problem here in this debate is that in our lives we take both consequences and intention into account when judging a person and their action morally. You never just judge a person without taking into account what they were intending to happen, or why they were doing something. However, you do also take into account what actually happened when they did it. It would seem really strange not to. And here's the thing, I don't see the need to pick one or the other, which is what Kant and utilitarianism and most of moral philosophy is currently doing. Because we don't do that in daily life. We do use them both. Now, what I think we descriptively means what we do in our actual lives, is we judge a person based on their intentions. However, we judge actions by the consequences. So if we take the example of the person, injuring us with a spoon which prevented us from walking to an aggressive cow named Daisy who would kill us. Yeah. If we look at that one again, we would probably judge the person trying to injure us to be an utter twat and therefore in the moral wrong, right? That's what we'd probably do. However, we would probably be grateful to the action if it prevented us from killing, assuming we don't want to kill ourselves. So we'd probably judge the action to be right. So, and that's why I don't think we need to take, or we don't need to pick one. We can use them both. We should judge a person based on their intentions. So that's where deontology comes in. And I think we need to judge an action by its consequences. Because how else do you judge an action? An action hasn't got intentions. So I think that whatever moral theory ever prevails and we eventually settle for as philosophers, well, they won't, but if they did settle for one, I think it would have to be one which would judge actions by consequences and judge a person by the intentions. But yeah. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Until next time, guys. I'll do another one of these on something I don't know what yet. Bye-bye.